all waken up and been tired at some point. It's pretty much a given that at some point during the week we won't get enough sleep. Now, being a high school senior myself, I find myself to be relying on caffeine sometimes in the morning, about every other day. I know you have it about every day, but that's obviously not very healthy for high school kids or anybody to be relying on caffeine to wake yourself up in the morning. And adolescents especially need more sleep, and this has been biologically proven. And I think that since the majority of middle schoolers and high schoolers don't get enough sleep, that school starts should be moved back later than 8:30. Now, when school starts earlier than it should, it has adverse effects on teens' learning abilities, their health, and even car accidents. Now, to start off, first hour class is obviously almost always one of the hardest classes to pay attention in, and 93% of high schools in the United States start class before 8:30 a.m. Adolescents should get about 8 to 10 hours of sleep each night, and kids that don't are more likely to be overweight. They're also more susceptible to suffer from depression, and their grades suffer as a result. During puberty, adolescents are biologically more adapted to being night owls, so they tend to stay awake longer and sleep later in the morning. That's just a biological thing. And combined with poor sleep habits, that's not very good, because then you have somebody who's sleep deprived waking up too early, and that's not good for their health. These kids don't have very good drive in school, and they don't do well as a result. And like I mentioned earlier, kids who wake up too early can rely on stimulants like caffeine. Caffeine can cause anxiety and dehydration in teens more severely than adults. And 73% of kids consume caffeine each morning, and that was from the CDC. So, kids that play sports are also affected the most because they get home later and therefore have less time to do homework, and that correlates to getting less sleep. Now, average hours of nightly sleep increased, and catch-up sleep on the weekends decreased when schools moved their start times back. So kids they might be getting the same amount of sleep, but their sleep habits are much better, and that correlates to doing better in school and just feeling better. Now, on the other side, there are many good effects that that delaying school start times has effects on teen health. Now, many teens report feeling better after school start times are moved back, and on average, after moving school start times back, kids got 3.8 more hours of sleep during the school week. So that's almost an hour of sleep each night extra. Now, obviously, you can't go to bed later when school start times are moved back. It has to go both ways. So having a set sleep time and keeping a set sleep schedule is a main factor in this, and also not staying on electronics while your lights are turned off. That also doesn't do you any help. 10% of teens said they were sleeping better, and 20% of teens reported less daytime sleepiness after school start times were moved back. Now, something interesting is that when it was tested, later start times only had an effect on college-age students, high school students, and some middle school students. Grade school kids didn't really have any effect when school times were moved back, because most of the time their parents have a set sleep schedule for them. And yeah. Now, the purpose of starting school later is not to let kids stay up later into the night, as I said. And the sleep quality correlates directly with their academic performance. In a study that was done in Pakistan in 2018, Pakistani medical students who said they had a poor sleep quality averaged a GPA of 2.9, and students that said they had a good sleep quality and got enough sleep each night said they had a 3.4 average GPA. And I got that from The Impact of Poor Sleep Quality on the Academic Performance of Medical Students by Ganpat Maheshwari. Finally, later school start times could even save teen lives. I'm sure driving to school, sometimes I find myself being tired, especially during the winter when it's still dark out in the morning. It might be kind of hard to stay, not necessarily awake while driving, but you can find yourself being drowsy while driving. places where inclement weather is common, like up in the north where they get a lot of snow not year round, in the winter, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reports that motor vehicle accidents are the leading cause of death among high school age teens, and drowsy driving affects almost 20% of those deaths. Now, when school started an hour later in Jackson Hole, Wyoming in 2018, accidents involving teens dropped 70%, which is quite a bit, and that was from 3 Reasons to Consider Later School Times by Tracy Costigan. Now, the American Pediatric Association also recommends that school starts at 8:30 or later, 8:30 a.m. or later. So why does 93% of middle school and high school start before? That has to do a lot with scheduling, and parents that are working, they don't have time if school starts at, let's say, 8:30 or even 9 o'clock to get their kids to school if they have to be to work earlier. So that's one of the main problems that school districts face when wanting to move their school time back. Now, teen sleep quality, academic success, health, and a person's attitude are all interrelated and should be taken seriously when thinking about a teen's health. So all of these things that I've mentioned are interrelated. It's not like they're set or they're isolated issues, so they'll have a part to play in each other. Now, teen sleep quality is one of the most important factors in a teen's academic success, health, and their ability to function cognitively. When teens are continuously sleep deprived, they are more at risk for things like depression, being overweight, doing poor in school, and having a bad attitude. Now, the positive effects of a later start are numerous. Like I said, academic performance improves. Teens are more likely to not need to catch up on sleep on the weekends. And I think that many schools should start later. Now, change starts with asking your school officials, and I encourage you to present the facts to them and petition for later start times because it could even save lives.